Hello, one and all! Welcome back to another episode of Top 10 Toons, where we count down the top 10s of a variety of subjects involving all your favorite cartoons. New, old, it doesn't matter. I'm your host, Toon Master. All audio and visual effects have been added to prevent copyright infringement. All audio and visual content is owned by their respective owners. Today's episode, Top 10 Toons that ended too soon. There are plenty of shows that we wish would never end, but then there are those that ended before even being given the chance to go full speed, whether taken off the air only after a few episodes, or being left with a teaser that we will never see the end to. These are the top 10 cartoons that were cancelled much too soon. Number 1. 52 episode limit. The show must have lasted no longer than 52 episodes. Number 2. No ending episode. If a show had an episode dedicated to ending the series, however short it was, then it cannot be on this list. It was already given a proper send-off. Number 3. This is not an anime list. Now, let the countdown begin. Number 10. Now this show lasted a pretty good while. 4 seasons is not too bad in cartoon standards, and it just reaches our 52 episode limit. The reason that this series is on the list is because we never got to see our hero reach his series long goal. Jack is a samurai warrior, trained by the best masters of the world to defeat the evil Aku. Basically, Daredevil. Jack finally confronts Aku and defeats him. But before the final blow was struck, Aku opened a portal and Jack was sucked into the future where Aku has already succeeded in taking over the world. The entire series revolves around Jack trying to find a way back to the past to stop Aku before this timeline can exist. There have been many occasions where Jack has gotten a chance to go home, but every time he fails and must continue his journey. And that journey has never ended. We never got to see Jack return home or even finally end Aku's tyranny in the future. The entire purpose of the plot has not been fulfilled, and that is why this series ended too soon. We need to see an end to the show. Whether a movie or one more episode, we must finally give the mighty warrior the fate that he most definitely deserves. Number 9.
Watch the skies coming at you, a hero of metal hue.
Now I'm sure most of you have never heard of this little gem of a cartoon, but trust me when I say, it's one of the greats. The show is based on a comic about a young robotic boy, Rusty, who looks up to a giant robot named Big Guy. But what he doesn't know is that Big Guy is really a robotic suit and a man is the real mind behind the machine. The look is reminiscent of the Men in Black cartoon, and the story is similar as well. The robotic duo fight off alien invaders and monsters in order to protect the US of A. What makes this show stand out is the addition of Rusty the Robot Boy. He brings in a whole new look at the story and action. The view of the world around him as not only a child, but a robot as well, is a great perspective to have on a show like this. The way that he struggles to fit in and how the only companion he has is a mech suit which he believes is a robot like him is an ingenious idea. However, this show lasted only 2 seasons, but the second season ended with a huge cliffhanger that had been built up the entire series, which is why this is one show that certainly ended too soon. The plot point is one the fans have been waiting to see for the entirety of the show, only to be left astray by a sudden cancellation just as it was about to arrive. An end that arrived too soon.
His story, the big guy and Rusty.
Number 8.
Earthworm Jim,
The soil he did crawl,
Earthworm Jim,
a super suit did fall.
Now the younger people watching this may not know who Earthworm Jim is, but anyone growing up in the 90s sure will. It's hard to think of this show as one based on a video game, but that is exactly what it is, and it just may be one of the best video game cartoons ever. The show is about the zany adventures of a worm in a superpowered suit, and a dog sidekick with some anger issues. The show only lasted 2 seasons and has only 23 episodes under its belt, but considering how this show is leagues ahead of other video game cartoons, it's a mystery why it was thrown off the air so soon. Now, I'm not saying video game cartoons are bad. I'm saying that Earthworm Jim is a much better show both visually and script-wise than most of them. The comedy in the show was so good and the characters were so creative that they look like ones you would see in shows like Darkwing Duck or even Animaniacs. If you haven't seen the show, and I'm certain most of you younger viewers haven't, then I strongly suggest that you do. You can even pick up the complete series on DVD for around $10. Now that's a bargain if I ever saw one. The show has a very strong 90s feel to it that I'm sure many people will find nostalgic, but the comedy and writing is strong enough to hold up to cartoons today. This is one show that certainly needed to have a chance to be in the spotlight.
Groovy!
Number 7. Now if there was ever a show that wasn't given any time to grow, it would be this one. Thundercats was already a household name, being that it was one of the most popular cartoons in the 80s, but the newest series that debuted in 2011 was thrown out faster than week-old garbage. After the show was cancelled, there was uproar from the fans. People were angry. During this time, most cartoons on the air were terrible. The late 2000s, early 2010s was the dark age for cartoons. There were literally so many awful cartoons on the air that lifelong Toon fans just quit watching. It was that bad. So when a great show like this came along and was cancelled only after one season while the rest of the junk was kept, it made people go bonkers. The new Thundercats had great action, strong plot, and memorable characters. Then why was it cancelled so early? This is just a guess, but I'm assuming that it wasn't selling as much toys as its predecessor. The original Thundercats made so much money by selling kids' toys that it was everywhere and everyone knew who they were. And as great as this new rendition was, it could not hold a candle to the original. Honestly, when the 2011 series was around, I heard people liking it and recommending it. But what I didn't see was everyone going nuts about it and creating a worldwide phenomenon like the original had. The new Thundercats just had too big of shoes to fill, and the producers were expecting too much out of it. A sad fate that couldn't have befallen a show with more untapped potential. Number 6. What happens when a fantastic cartoon based on one of the most iconic superhero teams of all time is made, but then a film based on the same team is released soon after, and the producers want to take advantage of the movie by making a show centered on that instead? They canceled the original cartoon and replaced it with theirs. Now, Avengers Assemble is a pretty good show, but Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes was much better. Sure, the new Avengers looks better and resembles the actors more, but the original had bigger, better action, more story, more villains, more heroes, and more of Marvel's history. It's so sad when a perfectly entertaining show is cancelled to make room for one that is not as worthy of such praise. Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes ended much too soon, and I truly believe that if it had been made a few years earlier, it may have ended up becoming as grand as the Justice League cartoon. But with only 2 seasons made, the Avengers didn't have time to fully adopt all of the material they could have from the comics into the cartoon. This cartoon was one of the best at bringing comic books to life. The plots that befell the episodes were directly based on the comics, and I'm sure Marvel fans sure appreciated that. As for people who didn't read comics, myself included, it was great to be able to catch up on all the adventures that we missed from the comics just by watching the cartoon. We learned so much about heroes and villains that we've never heard or seen before. The new Avengers just made up their own stories around the characters that had already been established. They did not bring in the timeless tales of the amazing adventures that the team went through, and they certainly did not bring any new heroes to the team. It felt like a ripoff of the other Avengers cartoon, the one that ended too soon. Number 5. Here's another show that wasn't given much of a chance to grow. Wolverine and the X-Men is one of the best superhero cartoons out there, and may even rival the original animated series in terms of quality. Wolverine and the X-Men stars Wolverine as the head of the Xavier Institute, as Charles Xavier has been comatose after the mansion was destroyed. However, in the future, Charles is able to communicate with Wolverine through his own past body, and together they must stop a horrible future from occurring. The cartoon is full of action and drama, both of which make the X-Men series so popular. There are no downsides to the cartoon as both the writing and animation are top-notch. It's hard to believe that a show this great can be cancelled, especially after only one season. The quality alone is enough to get this show on the list, but the fact that the first season ends with a giant cliffhanger just makes it impossible not to want more. Wolverine and the X-Men definitely deserves a comeback. Number 4. What is it with superhero shows always getting cancelled too soon? Well, when this show was cancelled, it caused a huge backlash from fans. It created a sort of revolution in the internet as petitions and calls to action were everywhere. So what made this show so special? Well, just like Thundercats, this cartoon came out during the Dark Age, and as with Thundercats, people were enraged to learn that it was cancelled while other bad shows stayed on the air. Young Justice was like a new Teen Titans style cartoon to take over the mantle of the DC Nation. It stars the young sidekicks of various Justice League heroes as they try to learn to work as a team and become better heroes. Young Justice did an amazing job bringing in both memorable comic book sidekicks as well as lesser known ones and making them into a powerful team. But as with many other cartoons, the show was cancelled to make room for new shows like Teen Titans Go. Yep, Young Justice was cancelled because Cartoon Network felt that Young Justice and Teen Titans Go would be too similar to each other. And after the confusion started when the second season of Young Justice completely changed the formula for the show, they felt that it was time for the cartoon to retire, but the community felt otherwise. Young Justice was a great superhero show and well worth keeping around. It was not similar to Teen Titans Go, as that show was all about comedy while Young Justice focused on drama and action. It hit fans hard when the show was cancelled, not only because it was such a great show, but because it ended with a cliffhanger as well, that I'm sure many fans will want to see expanded upon. Number 3. Invader Zim is one of those shows that has gotten a cult following after its cancellation. The show stars an enthusiastic alien invader who wants to try to take over the world. Unfortunately, he always seems to come up short, and with a dim-witted robot sidekick, it's easy to see why. Invader Zim is similar to Ren and Stimpy in terms of crew design and plenty of adult humor, but what sets Zim apart is the unique science fiction setting and the exaggerated characters. This is a show that both kids and adults can get into. So why is this show on the list? With only 2 seasons, the show was not allowed to expand and become the craze that it was meant to be. Seeing as how Zim and Gur have become cartoon icons similar to Hello Kitty, it's strange to see why this show was not allowed to stick around or even receive a reboot of the series. They are still so popular now, even after years of being off the air. Many fans have spoken out about this show and how it should have been allowed to continue, and I agree with them. Zim's crazy schemes need to go on, and we need to see more made of this series. Number 2. Now this just might be the absolute best video game cartoon ever made. This show may also be in the top 10 cartoons of all time. If you have never seen the show, then you are surely missing out. The cartoon stars Sonic and his group of freedom fighters as they try to stop the evil Dr. Robotnik who has taken over the world and turned everyone into his robotic slaves. The post-apocalyptic setting was enough to grab our attention, and the plot is so thick that you'll be hard-pressed to find a better story in any of the cartoons of those days. This show is the pinnacle of adventure cartoons. The cartoon is so perfect that it is hard to explain why it's so great. It's just something you have to experience for yourself. It is a crime to see that this cartoon was cancelled so soon. But what really made this cartoon number 2 on the list is that the final episode was by far the best episode in the series. And with such great praise over the show, that is no easy feat. I won't spoil anything for you, but anyone who has seen the show knows what I'm talking about. But not only was the final episode absolutely amazing, it ended with a teaser for the next season, one that has never seen the light of day. I'm sure many of us have felt the pain in our hearts when we watch the final episode of a show that we love. But it's heart-wrenching to be left hanging on the end of a phenomenal cartoon and never being able to see what the creators had planned. The longing that you have can never be satisfied. To be continued. Forever. Number 1. Yep, You better believe it. The hit video game series Battletoads had a cartoon. Well, almost. Battletoads had a cartoon pilot that aired only one day in Thanksgiving weekend in 1992, and since then has fallen into obscurity with only a few tapes of the pilot left. I was lucky enough to find one in a 99-cent store when I was a kid and now own my own copy. But you can also find an upload of the episode on YouTube if you're curious. So why is Battletoads number 1? While it is not better than most of the shows on this list, I honestly believe that if this show were given a chance to have its own series back in the day, it would have created a phenomenon similar to how the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles did in the 80s. The concepts of the shows are so similar to each other that I'm sure it would have become popular if just given the opportunity. While it feels a little cheesy now, if you take a look at the original episodes of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you would see that they are just as corny as one another. Battletoads could have become the next Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but their time has passed and the opportunity has been squandered. It's a shame that a cartoon like this, one that could have changed our childhood, was not even allowed to have more than a single episode. Battletoads, the gem that was buried before it even had a chance to shine. And that, my friends, is the top 10 tunes that ended too soon. I hope you enjoyed the list, and if you have any other shows that you think should have been on there, just mention it in the comments below so that others can watch them and feel the same way. But for now, it's time for...
Toon Tally!
Last episode, we asked you to vote on which Chipmunk show you liked best. Alvin and the Chipmunks or Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. Now for the results. The winner is...
Here we come!
Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers.
Nothing to it!
Now for the next Toon Tally. Sonic Showdown. Which Sonic the Hedgehog series did you like best? Sonic Sat AM, The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic Underground, Sonic X, or Sonic Boom? There are plenty to choose from, but which series do you think stands out? Vote now and come back next episode to see which show is way past cool and which one is no good. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to catch the next episode as soon as it airs. Also, don't forget to leave a suggestion below for next week's list, Top 10 Toon Girls. What are the best female cartoon characters that you can think of? Leave a comment below and your suggestion may just come out in the next episode. Thanks again, and see you all next time.
But sadly, his time in this world came to an end. And like the cycle of the seasons, the cycle of the Avatar began anew.